Legendary King's Guard Dismount Parade, one of the world's most watched ceremonies daily. A quiet calm spread across the courtyard, but behind the serene beauty, a flurry of activity was already underway. The legendary King's Guard, known throughout the kingdom and admired by people around the world, was preparing for their daily dismount parade. For them, this ceremony was not just a routine task. It was an honor, a tradition that had been passed down for centuries, and a responsibility that each guard carried with pride. Captain Alistair, a young officer with a sharp mind and strong discipline, walked along the line of soldiers, inspecting every detail. Each guard stood perfectly still, boots polished to a mirror shine, uniforms crisp and spotless, and faces showing absolute focus. Alistair had joined the Guard years ago as a trainee and worked his way up with determination and perseverance. He knew that the eyes of the kingdom and even the world would soon be on them, so there was no room for mistakes. Every movement, every step, and every glance mattered. The King's Guard was not merely about strength or skill. It was about precision, discipline, and respect for tradition. Behind the disciplined line of soldiers, the stables were alive with movement. Horses, majestic and strong, neighed softly as their groomers brushed and polished them. The sunlight caught the sheen of their coats, making them appear as if they were glowing from within. Each horse had been trained for the parade from a young age, learning not only to respond to commands, but also to stay calm amid the excitement and the crowd. Captain Alistair personally oversaw the preparations, ensuring that each horse was ready for the performance. The bond between a guard and his horse was special, built on trust, practice, and mutual respect. Without this connection, the parade would lose its harmony and grace. Tourists had begun arriving at the palace gates even before the ceremony started. Cameras were ready, and eyes were wide with anticipation. People from different countries, speaking different languages, had come to witness this legendary event. They had read stories, watched videos, and heard tales about the King's Guard, but seeing it in person was an experience that could not be described in words. Children pressed their faces against the iron railings, their eyes sparkling with wonder. Elderly visitors stood quietly, taking in the history and the beauty of the scene before them. The air was filled with a mixture of excitement, awe, and respect, a combination that made the courtyard feel alive in a way that was almost magical. Inside the palace, the officials and organizers moved quickly, making last-minute checks to ensure everything was perfect. Every trumpet, every drum, and every flag had its place. The king himself was often present for the parade, though he remained a dignified figure, observing quietly from a distance. For him, the daily parade was not a show of power but a celebration of tradition, discipline, and the unity of his people. Captain Alistair understood this deeply. He knew that their performance reflected not only on the guards, but on the values and history of the entire kingdom. As the sun climbed higher, the guards assembled in formation. Captain Alistair walked along the ranks once more, his sharp eyes noticing every detail, from the alignment of boots to the posture of each soldier. He adjusted a collar here, a glove there, and offered a nod of encouragement to those who needed it. Discipline was strict, but the atmosphere was respectful and motivating rather than harsh. Each guard took pride in being part of something greater than themselves, a living tradition that had endured through generations of kings and rulers. They understood that the ceremony was more than a daily routine. It was a symbol of honor, dedication, and excellence. The horses were brought forward, moving gracefully into their positions. Their riders, the guards, mounted with practiced ease, the sound of hooves echoing across the courtyard. Captain Alistair took his place at the front, his posture straight and commanding. He could feel the excitement building, not only among the spectators, but also within himself and his team. This was a moment they had prepared for tirelessly. Months of training, countless hours of practice, and unwavering focus all led to this very minute. Each guard knew their movements perfectly, yet they maintained an alertness that allowed them to adapt to any unexpected situation. This balance of precision and awareness was what made the King's Guard legendary. The courtyard was now filled with an almost tangible energy. Visitors whispered to each other, cameras clicked, and children pointed in awe at the horses and guards. Captain Alistair took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He remembered the stories of past parades, of guards who had served before him with honor and of the countless people who had watched the ceremony over the years. There was a connection across time, a sense of continuity that made the experience profound. Every salute, every step, and every synchronized movement would be a part of this ongoing legacy, a tribute to discipline, courage, and pride. As the first trumpet sounded, signaling the beginning of the parade, the guards moved in perfect unison. The sound echoed through the palace grounds, announcing to all that the ceremony had begun. Captain Alistair felt a surge of pride as he led his team forward, the horses following their commands flawlessly. The crowd erupted in applause, impressed not only by the visual spectacle but by the precision and elegance of the performance. Each step was measured, each movement deliberate, reflecting years of training and dedication. For the spectators, it was more than just a parade. It was a living story, a window into a world of discipline, history, and honor that they would never forget. The daily dismount parade was a ritual that required focus, skill, and coordination. Captain Alistair moved gracefully among the guards, ensuring that every action was synchronized, every salute sharp, and every formation precise. The beauty of the ceremony lay not just in the individual skill of each guard, but in their unity. It was a dance of discipline and tradition, a performance that had been refined over centuries. The bond between the guards, the trust between the riders and their horses, and the dedication to perfection created a spectacle that was mesmerizing to anyone watching. Even as the parade continued, Captain Alistair's mind was alert. He noticed the smallest details, the way a horse's tail swayed, the tilt of a helmet, the alignment of a line. Nothing escaped his attention, for he knew that perfection was in the details. The audience watched with bated breath, some whispering in admiration, others taking countless photos and videos to capture the moment. Children pointed excitedly, trying to memorize every movement, while adults nodded in appreciation of the discipline and dedication they were witnessing. Every eye was focused on the guards, and every heart was touched by the grace, honor, and tradition on display. As the first part of the parade reached its climax, the sense of pride within Captain Alistair and his team was immense. They had trained for this moment, yet the thrill of performing before an audience that spanned continents was unlike anything else. The crowd's reaction was a reward for their hard work, a reflection of the beauty and importance of the ceremony. Each guard understood that they were not merely performing for entertainment. They were representing the kingdom, its history, and its values. This responsibility was taken seriously, and it was what made the King's Guard legendary. The morning air was filled with a mixture of sounds, the rhythmic beat of drums, the crisp commands of officers, the soft steps of horses, and the murmurs of an awestruck crowd. Captain Alistair felt a deep connection to the generations of guards who had performed before him. He could imagine the faces of the young soldiers from decades past, standing in the same courtyard, performing the same ritual, and carrying the same sense of honor. It was a moment that transcended time, a living link between the past, present, and future. For Captain Alistair, this realization made the parade even more meaningful, a reminder of why they dedicated their lives to this calling. As the first section of the dismount parade drew to a close, the crowd erupted in applause once more. Captain Alistair allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction, knowing that the hours of preparation, the countless drills, and the unwavering focus of his team had paid off. Yet there was no room for complacency. The parade was only the beginning of a long tradition, and every day brought a new opportunity to honor the legacy of the King's Guard. With pride in his heart and determination in his eyes, Captain Alistair led his team forward, ready to continue the performance that had captured the attention and admiration of people around the world. The King's Guard Dismount Parade was more than a ceremony. It was a symbol of dedication, precision, and the enduring spirit of the kingdom. For Captain Alistair and his fellow guards, it was a daily challenge and a daily honor, a chance to prove their skill, discipline, and loyalty. For the spectators, it was a breathtaking glimpse into a world of tradition, excellence, and pride. And for the kingdom, it was a living testament to the values that had endured for generations, a reminder that honor, discipline, and courage were timeless, and that the legend of the King's Guard would continue to inspire for years to come. The sun had climbed higher in the sky, casting its warm light across the palace courtyard. The King's Guard, already prepared from the morning drills, now faced a different kind of challenge. the rigorous routine that lay behind the elegance of their famous dismount parade. While the public saw only perfection, the reality behind the scenes was much more demanding. Every guard knew that discipline, focus, and preparation were the true pillars of their performance. The parade was a display of excellence, but excellence could only come from countless hours of practice, attention to detail, and unyielding dedication. Captain Alastair walked among the guards once more, his eyes sharp and attentive. The morning parade was not just about marching or dismounting with precision. It was a test of skill, stamina, and teamwork. Each guard had to be aware not only of their own movements, but also of every horse, every fellow guard, and every subtle shift in the formation. A single misstep could disrupt the entire parade, and though mistakes were rare, they were not impossible. Alastair had learned early in his career that vigilance and preparation were more important than pride or ego. The success of the parade depended on harmony, and harmony was built on discipline. Behind the scenes, the horses were a central focus of preparation. Groomers and handlers worked tirelessly, brushing the animals until their coats gleamed like polished wood, checking every hoof, mane, and tail. The horses were trained to respond to subtle commands from their riders, and any hesitation could affect the rhythm of the parade. Captain Alastair often reminded his guards that a guard and his horse were partners. Trust, patience, and practice were required to build this bond. When a guard climbed onto the back of a horse, there was an unspoken understanding, a synchronization that allowed them to move as one. This connection, though invisible to spectators, was the foundation of the parade's beauty. The guards themselves endured a demanding routine. Each day began with stretching exercises, followed by drills that tested balance, strength, and endurance. Officers like Captain Alastair observed their every move, correcting posture, alignment, and timing. Even the most experienced guards were expected to perform with flawless precision. Repetition was key. Hours were spent practicing mounting and dismounting, perfecting salutes and rehearsing formations. Though the routine was physically exhausting, the guards accepted it as a part of their duty. Pride in their performance, respect for tradition, and the knowledge that they represented the kingdom were stronger motivators than fatigue. Every drill was designed with purpose. Guards practiced not only individually but as a unit. Lines had to remain straight, steps synchronized, and movements fluid. The rhythm of the parade depended on this coordination. Captain Alastair would often call out commands, guiding his team, but also allowing them to learn to anticipate each other's actions. Trust among the guards was essential. They were more than colleagues. They were a family united by the shared goal of maintaining the King's Guard's legendary reputation. Mistakes were corrected calmly but firmly, and lessons were repeated until every movement became instinctive. The preparation extended beyond the courtyard. The palace grounds were meticulously arranged to accommodate the parade, with every flag, banner, and musical instrument in its proper place. Trumpeters, drummers, and ceremonial musicians also practiced, their notes meant to synchronize with the movements of the guards. Music was more than decoration. It was an integral part of the ceremony, guiding the pace of the parade and enhancing the sense of grandeur. Captain Alastair coordinated closely with the musicians to ensure that timing was perfect. Even a slight delay or acceleration could disrupt the harmony of the entire performance. As the day progressed, the tension behind the scenes was almost palpable. The guards moved through their routines with focused determination, aware that their actions were being observed not only by the king and palace officials, but by an audience that extended far beyond the courtyard. In the age of cameras, social media, and live broadcasts, the parade reached millions of viewers around the world. The pressure was immense, yet Captain Alastair and his team embraced it. They understood that their role was not only to perform, but to inspire. The story of discipline, unity, and honor embedded in each movement was what made the King's Guard legendary. The bond between rider and horse grew stronger with every drill. Captain Alastair often spent hours with individual horses, observing their reactions, noting their preferences, and adjusting commands accordingly. Some horses were spirited, requiring calm and patience to keep them focused. Others were steady but needed constant engagement to maintain energy and rhythm. The guards learned to read the subtle cues of their mounts, the twitch of an ear, the lift of a hoof, or a shift in weight. These small signals could make the difference between perfection and a minor disruption in the parade. The art of horsemanship, combined with military discipline, elevated the King's Guard above ordinary soldiers. Meanwhile, new recruits watched the experienced guards with admiration and determination. They were learning not only the physical movements, but the mindset that the parade demanded. Patience, focus, and respect for tradition were as important as strength or agility. Captain Alistair took it upon himself to mentor the younger guards, guiding them through the challenges of the routine, answering questions, and instilling confidence. He knew that the future of the parade depended on these new recruits, and it was his duty to ensure that they carried forward the legacy with the same pride and excellence as those who had come before them. The routine also tested mental endurance. Guards had to remain focused for long periods, anticipating each command and adjusting to subtle changes in formation or timing. Any lapse in concentration could have consequences. Captain Alistair often reminded his team that discipline was not just physical but mental. A guard who was alert, confident, and aware could maintain harmony in the parade even under unexpected circumstances. Mental toughness was cultivated through practice, repetition, and a deep understanding of the ceremony's significance. The guards were trained to remain calm, composed, and precise no matter the situation. As the afternoon sun reached its peak, the final preparations for the day's main parade began. Guards polished their boots one last time, adjusted their uniforms, and ensured every piece of equipment was in place. Horses were led to their positions, their movements calm and steady, reflecting the trust they shared with their riders. Captain Alistair inspected the formation once more, his eyes scanning every detail. The courtyard was ready, the guards were ready, and the horses were ready. The anticipation was shared by every member of the team, a silent understanding that what they were about to perform was a culmination of hours, days, and even years of dedication. The first trumpet blared, signaling the start of the parade. The guards moved into formation, their steps synchronized, boots hitting the ground with precision. The audience gathered around the palace gates gasped in admiration. Cameras clicked, and children's eyes widened as they watched the display of discipline, skill, and harmony. Captain Alistair led his team with confidence, guiding the guards and horses through each movement with calm authority. The routine they had practiced countless times behind the scenes now unfolded before the world, flawless and breathtaking. The parade flowed seamlessly, a testament to the rigorous routine that had prepared them for this moment. Guards moved in perfect alignment, salutes crisp and sharp, and horses responding to the subtlest of cues. Captain Alistair felt a deep sense of pride. Every drill, every correction, and every hour of training had led to this display of excellence. The audience's awe and admiration were only part of the reward. The true satisfaction came from knowing that the King's Guard had honored its legacy, upheld tradition, and performed with perfection. Even as the parade progressed, Captain Alistair's mind remained alert. He observed the formation, noting subtle shifts, anticipating movements, and ensuring that every detail remained perfect. His experience and discipline allowed him to lead with confidence while maintaining a calm presence that reassured the guards and horses alike. The unity and trust among the team were evident, a silent communication that allowed them to move as one. This harmony, built on rigorous routine and unwavering dedication, was what made the King's Guard truly legendary. As the parade drew to its first ceremonial halt, applause erupted from the audience. Captain Alistair allowed himself a brief moment of satisfaction, knowing that the preparation, discipline, and practice had produced a flawless performance. Yet he also knew that the routine would continue, that every day brought new challenges and opportunities to refine their skill. The rigorous routine behind the scenes was never complete. Each guard understood that excellence required constant dedication, and the daily parade was both a test and a celebration of that commitment. The King's Guard Dismount Parade, with all its precision, elegance, and discipline, was more than a spectacle. It was a symbol of dedication, tradition, and the enduring spirit of the kingdom. Captain Alistair and his team had spent countless hours preparing for this moment, honing their skills, building trust with their horses, and perfecting their formations. Their efforts were a reminder that behind every flawless performance lay a story of commitment, practice, and unwavering focus. For the spectators, it was a breathtaking experience. For the guards, it was a daily opportunity to honor their legacy and uphold the values of excellence, discipline, and pride that define the King's Guard. The moment had arrived that every member of the King's Guard lived for, the pinnacle of the day's parade, the moment when months of preparation, hours of training, and years of tradition came together in perfect harmony. Captain Alistair felt a familiar thrill as the trumpets sounded, announcing to all that the ceremonial dismount was about to begin. The crowd had grown even larger since morning, with tourists, locals, and dignitaries lining the palace gates, cameras in hand, their eyes wide with anticipation. Children pressed closer to the barriers, eager to see the legendary guards in action, while adults quietly marveled at the discipline and precision on display. The guards moved forward with absolute confidence, their steps in perfect synchronization, boots clicking against the polished stone of the courtyard. The horses, majestic and well-trained, mirrored their riders' focus, moving with grace and power. Captain Alistair's heart swelled with pride as he observed the seamless coordination of his team. Every command, every subtle signal, and every practiced movement came together in a display that was both powerful and elegant. The audience, both present in the courtyard and watching through live broadcasts around the world, was witnessing something truly extraordinary, a living tradition that had captivated generations. The first phase of the dismount parade was delicate yet commanding. Guards raised their sabers, saluted with precise timing, and executed steps that seemed effortless but were, in reality, the result of countless hours of practice. Captain Alistair moved among his team, his eyes sharp and attentive, ensuring that every detail was executed with perfection. Even a small hesitation could disrupt the flow, yet the guards performed with fluidity, showing the harmony that had been built over years of rigorous training. Each horse responded flawlessly, a silent testament to the bond between rider and animal, forged through trust, patience, and dedication. Spectators were mesmerized. Cameras clicked furiously, capturing each moment, while whispers of admiration spread through the crowd. Some tourists gasped in awe, their eyes wide with wonder, while others exchanged excited comments, marveling at the discipline and elegance on display. Children pointed to the horses and guards, their faces lighting up with joy and amazement. Even the palace staff, who witnessed the parade daily, were moved by the sight, reminded once again of the beauty, precision, and significance of this centuries-old ceremony. For Captain Alistair and his team, these reactions were rewarding, but the true satisfaction came from knowing they had honored the legacy of the King's Guard. As the parade progressed, the complexity of the movements increased. The guards executed turns, formations, and synchronized dismounts with flawless timing. Each movement was designed to showcase skill, discipline, and unity. Captain Alistair led from the front, giving commands with calm authority while observing the subtle cues of his team and the horses. The coordination required for these maneuvers was immense. Each guard needed to anticipate not only their own movements, but also the actions of every fellow guard. It was a dance of precision and trust, a performance that required complete focus and unwavering confidence. One wrong step could ruin the flow, yet the guards moved as one, a testament to their training and dedication. The energy in the courtyard was electric. The sound of trumpets, drums, and ceremonial music filled the air, blending seamlessly with the rhythmic clatter of hooves and the crisp commands of the officers. Every note, every beat, and every step was perfectly synchronized, creating a performance that was both visually stunning and emotionally powerful. Captain Alistair felt a surge of pride as he witnessed the culmination of the rigorous routine, the countless hours of preparation, and the commitment of every guard and horse. The parade was not just a display of skill. It was a living story of tradition, discipline, and honor that captivated everyone who watched. One of the most breathtaking moments of the parade was the synchronized dismount, a feat that required absolute trust between guard and horse. Each rider signaled to their horse with subtle cues, guiding them to stop, turn, or shift position with perfect timing. Then, as if on cue, the guards gracefully dismounted, their movements precise and elegant. The audience erupted in applause, many rising to their feet, unable to contain their admiration. Children clapped and cheered, their faces filled with excitement, while adults nodded in respect for the skill, discipline, and dedication on display. Captain Alistair allowed himself a brief smile, knowing that this moment represented the very essence of the King's Guard: precision, harmony, and honor. The dismount was followed by a sequence of ceremonial maneuvers that had been refined over centuries. Guards moved in intricate patterns, their sabers flashing in the sunlight, horses positioned perfectly, and every step executed with flawless timing. Captain Alistair guided the team with a steady hand, ensuring that each movement was performed with the elegance and discipline that the tradition demanded. The audience watched in awe as the parade unfolded, captivated by the beauty, skill, and synchronization of the performance. It was a living testament to the dedication of the guards, the bond between horse and rider, and the enduring legacy of the ceremony. Throughout the performance, Captain Alistair remained fully alert. His eyes scanned the formation, noting every movement, anticipating each turn, and ensuring that the team maintained perfect harmony. The guards, confident in their training and their leader, moved with precision and grace. Each horse responded instinctively to subtle cues, a reflection of the trust and partnership built through countless hours of practice. The rhythm of the parade, the sound of music, and the collective focus of the guards created a mesmerizing spectacle that held the audience in rapt attention. It was a display that went beyond mere performance. It was an experience that touched the hearts of everyone present. As the parade reached its climax, Captain Alistair led the guards through a series of complex formations that demonstrated not only their skill, but also the unity and discipline that defined the King's Guard. Each movement was executed with exacting precision, from the alignment of the guards to the positioning of the horses and the timing of each salute. The audience watched in amazement, many capturing the moment on cameras, while others simply stood in silent admiration. The combination of tradition, skill, and beauty created a performance that was both inspiring and unforgettable. For Captain Alistair, this was the ultimate reward: the knowledge that all their hard work, practice, and dedication had culminated in a flawless display. The final moments of the parade were marked by a breathtaking display of coordination. The guards and horses moved in perfect harmony, forming intricate patterns that seemed almost choreographed like a dance. Captain Alistair's commands were precise, guiding the team through each maneuver with calm authority. The audience watched with bated breath, captivated by the elegance, discipline, and skill on display. Children cheered, adults applauded, and even seasoned palace staff were moved by the sheer perfection of the performance. It was a moment that celebrated not only the King's Guard, but also the values of dedication, teamwork, and pride that they embodied. When the last maneuver was complete, the guards lined up in a final formation, boots polished and uniforms gleaming, horses standing tall and steady. Captain Alistair took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of pride and accomplishment. The audience erupted in applause, some standing and cheering, others capturing the moment on camera, all united in admiration for the legendary King's Guard. The culmination of the parade was more than a display of skill. It was a celebration of tradition, discipline, and the enduring spirit of the kingdom. Captain Alistair and his team had succeeded in creating a performance that would be remembered long after the final trumpet faded. As the guards and horses slowly exited the courtyard, the applause continued, echoing through the palace grounds. Captain Alistair took a moment to acknowledge his team, offering words of encouragement and appreciation. Each guard had contributed to the flawless performance, their skill, discipline, and dedication evident in every step, every salute, and every movement. The parade was not just a display for the audience. It was a testament to the values that the King's Guard upheld: honor, unity, and excellence. For Captain Alistair, this was the true reward, knowing that they had honored their legacy and inspired everyone who watched. Behind the scenes, the guards began to tend to their horses, carefully checking each saddle, bridle, and hoof. Captain Alistair observed quietly, ensuring that every detail was attended to. The rigorous routine that followed the parade was as important as the performance itself. Caring for the horses, maintaining equipment, and reviewing the day's performance were all part of the discipline that kept the King's Guard at the highest standard. It was a reminder that excellence was not achieved by a single performance, but by consistent effort, attention to detail, and dedication to tradition. As the day came to an end, Captain Alistair reflected on the significance of the parade. It was more than a spectacle. It was a living tradition that connected the past with the present, a daily reminder of the values that had shaped the kingdom for centuries. Each guard, each horse, and each maneuver was part of a story of dedication, discipline, and pride. The audience might see only the beauty and precision, but behind every movement lay countless hours of practice, patience, and perseverance. The parade was a celebration of human and animal skill, teamwork, and the enduring spirit of the King's Guard. For the spectators, the parade was a breathtaking experience, a moment that would stay with them long after they left the palace. For Captain Alistair and his team, it was a daily affirmation of their commitment to excellence, tradition, and honor. The performance inspired awe, respect, and admiration, showing the world what could be achieved through discipline, trust, and unity. And as the guards and horses returned to their stables, preparing for the next day's parade, the legend of the King's Guard continued to grow, a timeless symbol of dedication, skill, and pride that would captivate generations to come. The echo of applause still lingered in the palace courtyard as the King's Guard concluded the day's legendary dismount parade. Captain Alistair allowed himself a moment to absorb the scene, guards and horses perfectly aligned, the crowd still cheering, and the sunlight reflecting off polished boots, gleaming uniforms, and the proud faces of his team. It was a sight that never failed to inspire awe, both in those who witnessed it in person and in the millions watching across the globe. Yet behind the applause and admiration lay a deeper truth. The parade was not merely a daily spectacle, but a living testament to tradition, discipline, and dedication. Each guard carried with them the weight of history and the pride of representing the kingdom. As the audience began to disperse, Captain Alistair led his team through the final stages of their duties. Every detail mattered. Horses were carefully guided back to their stables, each hoof checked and cleaned, saddles adjusted, and coats brushed until they shone. The guards meticulously tended to every piece of equipment, ensuring that helmets, sabers, and uniforms remained in perfect condition. To a casual observer, these routines might seem simple, but in reality, they reflected the discipline and respect that underpinned the King's Guard. This attention to detail ensured that every performance, every day, could achieve the level of precision and elegance for which the parade was famous. The palace staff and visitors often lingered to watch the guards at work, quietly admiring the dedication behind the scenes. It was easy to be captivated by the spectacle of the parade, but the true story lay in the preparation, care, and teamwork that made the display possible. Captain Alistair moved among his team, offering words of encouragement, reminders, and guidance. Every member of the Guard understood their responsibility, not just to perform, but to maintain the reputation and honor of centuries of tradition. This was a lesson that transcended mere ceremony. It was a reflection of values that had endured through generations of kings, guards, and citizens. The young recruits, who had spent their first months observing and learning, watched their mentors with reverence. They had witnessed the parade from the sidelines, absorbing not only the movements and formations, but the discipline, patience, and attention to detail that made the performance extraordinary. Captain Alistair spoke to them quietly, sharing his experience and reinforcing the importance of teamwork and focus. "Every step you take, every signal you give, and every movement of your horse matters," he reminded them. "This is not just a parade, it is a reflection of who we are and what we represent." The words resonated deeply with the recruits, instilling a sense of pride, respect, and responsibility that would guide them throughout their service. As the day progressed, the atmosphere shifted from excitement to reflection. The guards and their captain reviewed the performance, noting successes and areas for improvement. Even after a flawless parade, there were lessons to be learned. Every movement, every timing, and every interaction between rider and horse could be refined. Captain Alistair believed that perfection was not a final destination, but a continuous journey. Excellence required constant dedication, self-awareness, and the willingness to improve. This mindset was one of the reasons the King's Guard had maintained its legendary status for generations. The parade also offered an opportunity to strengthen the bond between the guards and their horses. Captain Alistair spent extra time with the animals, ensuring that they were calm, comfortable, and well cared for after the performance. Feeding, grooming, and walking, the horses were essential parts of their routine, reinforcing the trust and partnership between human and animal. Each guard understood that a horse was more than a tool for display. It was a partner, a teammate, and an integral part of the parade's success. This connection, built over countless hours of training and care, was at the heart of the King's Guard's excellence. The audience, meanwhile, left the palace with a sense of wonder and inspiration. Families spoke excitedly about what they had seen, children tried to reenact the movements in their imaginations, and tourists captured photos and videos to share with friends back home. For many, witnessing the parade was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, a glimpse into a world where tradition, discipline, and teamwork combined to create something truly extraordinary. Captain Alastair often reflected on the impact the parade had on people, realizing that it was more than a ceremonial display. It was a source of inspiration, a story of dedication, and a reminder that excellence could be achieved through commitment and unity. Back at the stables, the guards completed their final checks. Equipment was stored, horses were settled for the evening, and every uniform was carefully inspected for cleanliness and readiness for the next day. Captain Alastair moved through the team, offering quiet praise and encouragement. "You performed beautifully today," he said. "Not because it was easy, but because you prepared, practiced, and respected the tradition that makes this parade legendary." His words were met with quiet nods, smiles, and the satisfaction that comes from a job well done. Every guard understood that their efforts were part of something larger than themselves, a legacy that stretched back through history and would continue for generations to come. As dusk approached, the palace grounds began to empty. The sounds of the day faded, replaced by a peaceful quiet that allowed Captain Alastair and his team a moment of reflection. The grandeur of the parade, the cheers of the audience, and the precision of the performance were all behind them, but the lessons, pride, and memories remained. Each day of the parade reinforced the values that defined the King's Guard: discipline, unity, honor, and excellence. Captain Alastair often thought about how fortunate he was to be part of such a remarkable tradition, and how privileged he was to lead such dedicated and talented individuals. The sunset cast a warm, golden glow over the palace, illuminating the polished boots of the guards, the gleaming coats of the horses, and the pride in Captain Alastair's eyes. The day's performance had been flawless, yet the work was never done. Training, preparation, and practice would continue, ensuring that the King's Guard remained at the highest standard. The legacy of the parade was not just in the performance itself, but in the commitment to excellence that each guard demonstrated daily. This dedication, passed from generation to generation, ensured that the King's Guard would continue to inspire awe and admiration for centuries. Captain Alastair took a final walk through the courtyard, observing the quiet aftermath of the day's events. The audience had gone, the courtyard was still, and the horses rested peacefully in their stables. He reflected on the journey of the parade, from the rigorous preparation to the breathtaking display, and finally, to the quiet moments of reflection and care. Every step of the process was meaningful, and every guard, from the newest recruit to the most experienced officer, played a crucial role in maintaining the excellence of the King's Guard. The ceremony was not just about spectacle. It was about responsibility, tradition, and the pursuit of perfection. The impact of the parade extended far beyond the palace walls. Across the kingdom, people discussed the day's performance, shared stories with friends and family, and celebrated the skill, discipline, and dedication of the King's Guard. For the younger generation, it was a source of inspiration, a reminder that focus, practice, and perseverance could create something extraordinary. For Captain Alastair and his team, it was a reaffirmation of their purpose, a chance to honor tradition, demonstrate excellence, and inspire those who witnessed their performance. Every day was an opportunity to uphold a legacy that had endured for centuries. As night fell, Captain Alastair gathered his guards for a final debrief. They discussed the day's successes, reflected on challenges, and shared insights that would guide future performances. Every member of the team understood that the parade was more than a display of skill. It was a living story, a connection to history, and a reflection of the values that define the King's Guard. Captain Alastair reminded them that their dedication, discipline, and teamwork were what made the parade legendary. These words were met with quiet determination and pride, reinforcing the bond among the guards and their commitment to excellence. The guards slowly dispersed for the evening, each returning to their quarters with a sense of accomplishment and purpose. Captain Alistair stayed behind for a moment, gazing at the now empty courtyard, reflecting on the day's events. The parade had once again captivated the audience, honored tradition, and showcased the skill, discipline, and unity of the King's Guard. But beyond the applause and admiration, the true achievement lay in the daily dedication, the preparation, and the unwavering commitment to excellence that each guard embodied. This was the legacy they carried forward, a legacy that would continue to inspire and captivate for generations to come. In the quiet of the night, Captain Alistair thought about the future. New recruits would join, eager to learn and prove themselves, while experienced guards would continue to refine their skills and pass on their knowledge. The daily parade was a symbol of continuity, connecting the past with the present and ensuring that the values of the King's Guard endured. Every step, every movement, and every display of precision was a reminder that excellence was built over time, through dedication, teamwork, and respect for tradition. It was a lesson that transcended the palace, inspiring everyone who witnessed it. As the palace lights dimmed and the stars appeared in the sky, Captain Alistair finally allowed himself to relax. The day's parade was complete, yet the legacy continued. The King's Guard had performed with perfection, honoring tradition, inspiring awe, and demonstrating the power of discipline, unity, and dedication. The audience had been captivated, the horses cared for, and the guards had upheld a legacy that stretched across generations. In every sense, the day had been a success, and the story of the King's Guard continued to grow, a living testament to what could be achieved through commitment, practice, and pride. The night air was calm, carrying with it the echoes of the day's performance. Captain Alistair looked at his team, proud of what they had accomplished and grateful for the opportunity to serve as their leader. The parade was more than a ceremony. It was a celebration of history, skill, and tradition, a daily reminder of the values that define the King's Guard. As the guards rested, preparing for another day of training and performance, the legend of the Dismount Parade remained alive, inspiring everyone who witnessed it and ensuring that the pride, discipline, and excellence of the King's Guard would endure forever.